Many people think that an accident, an automobile accident with an 18-wheeler or tractor trailer or commercial motor vehicle is the same thing as just a car wreck with a bigger vehicle. That's absolutely not true. Since they are professional drivers, truck drivers, bus drivers, they're held to a high standard, and they're also held to federal regulations and state regulations, federal laws and state laws that apply specifically to the truck drivers and the trucking companies. After an accident with an 18-wheeler, within minutes or hours, those trucking companies and their insurance companies will have someone at the scene investigating the accident. Most of the trucking companies, if the driver is uninjured, they tell the driver to get out with his camera and take pictures of the scene immediately. I've even had them say they're supposed to, I've even found in discovery, in depositions in cases, that the trucking companies have told their drivers to get out and take pictures before they get out and put cones down to help people avoid the accident. That's how important early investigation is to them. Since it's so important to the trucking company and to the trucking company's insurance company, it also ought to be important to you. And it's important that you hire an attorney that is very familiar with trucking accidents and with trucking companies. You see these commercial motor vehicles, tractor trailers, 18-wheelers, whatever you want to call them, the big trucks. Many of them have special devices in them, like the black box on the airplanes, like GPS tracking devices, like communication computers with their company that show exactly where they're at what time of the day they're there, how long they've been there, when they've dropped cargo off. It's important that we be able to get that information before it's destroyed, before it's changed, or before anybody has a chance to do something with it that they shouldn't do. Not that all trucking companies would change information, but I've run across companies that will delete information after a big accident to try to cover themselves. It's also important because many times the driver works for one company, and the tractor is owned by another company, and the trailer is owned by a third company, and the cargo is owned by somebody else. So it's important to understand who is responsible, and if all of them are responsible, and who has the full responsibility for this driver's conduct. So if you've been involved in an accident with an 18-wheeler or a commercial motor vehicle, big truck, it is very important that you call a lawyer that is experienced in dealing with the 18-wheelers, the trucking companies, and their insurance companies right away. It's important that you get a hold of the lawyer and you get him out there and that they get someone investigating the case immediately. In my prosecution of cases against truck drivers and trucking companies, I've found oftentimes that the drivers and the trucking companies will keep 2 or more logbooks. One time I found a driver keeping 4 separate logbooks. Now the logbook is the book that the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Regulations, promulgated by the United States government, require the truck drivers to keep track of the time that they are working, the time that they're driving, and the time that they're off duty, and the time that they're sleeping, because there are regulations that limit the amount of time that a driver can be on duty, and limit the amount of time that a driver can be driving. In order to get a load across the state or across the country, many times the drivers have to violate those regulations. The trucking companies require them to get there faster than what they should. And so in order to do so, they keep logbooks that aren't accurate. They keep logbooks that have them not violating the regulations. Even more of a reason to hire a lawyer that knows where to look, because in this day and age, most of the larger trucking companies have GPS or global positioning satellites that keep track of exactly where the truck driver is. So comparing the trucker's logbooks with the GPS records oftentimes will prove that the driver has violated his hours of service regulation. That is, he's driven too much time, which makes him a fatigued or tired driver. Which a fatigued or tired driver driving that huge truck at 70 miles an hour, 65 miles an hour or higher on the highway, it's like a ticking time bomb ready to explode into your vehicle. And so knowing where to look and knowing where to compare the documents and who compare the information is key. So it's also important that you hire a lawyer that has experience in these matters and knows where to look.